Cynics on Disney podcast contains adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
This is the Cynics on Disney podcast, presented by nightclub33.com.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Cynics on Disney podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, aka the Disney Cynic.
And I'm Amanda, aka the Anti-Cynic.
And today we are going to be talking about an attraction that, frankly, I thought we had already taken care of.
Same.
But we looked in the archives. We wrote it the other day and went, oh, no, actually, we haven't taken care of this already. So we're going to go ahead and knock it out, I guess.
Yeah.
And we kind of need to hurry a little bit because, we have a guest in the later half of the show. It's opening day for baseball. You know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
A lot happening. Yeah.
Today we are going to be discussing the first, I would say, major non-Disney IP attraction that opened within a Disney theme park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that not be the case?
No, I can't think of one that opened before it.
Maybe the Muppets?
No, I don't
Maybe
even think
the
Muppets. I don't think Muppets opened before.
Either way, we are going to be discussing Star Tours, you guys. So there's that. Fucking kids, they're just impressed by anything. Okay, so Amanda, go ahead and tell us a little bit of history here about Star Tours, if you would.
Okay, so the Star Tours attraction that is currently at Hollywood Studios is actually the second iteration of this ride. The original is just Star Tours.
Sure.
And the original opened December 15th, 1989 and closed on September 7th, 2010. The original version, originally this wasn't going to be a Star Tour or a Star Wars themed ride. There was a movie that came out in 1979. It was a Disney live action movie called The Black Hole, that they were originally going to do this ride based off of. However, it was going to be too expensive. And considering I had never heard of this movie until I did this research, that tells you that the movie was not popular.
Yeah.
So they had already kind of entered into a partnership with George Lucas. So they just kind of expanded that partnership with him a little bit to get this attraction to be based on Star Wars. The original ride was serving as a sequel to the original trilogy of Star Wars movies. When it opened, Disneyland's opened first, obviously. Disneyland, like their celebration, they opened theirs in 1987, and they were open for like 60 hours for like 60 hours straight to celebrate the opening of this ride.
That's a lot. It's like 3 days. Jesus, that sucks.
And then when the original closed in 2010, Hollywood Studios had an after hours event on August 14th of 2010 to start closing down the ride because it didn't actually close until September. But they had this big, huge after hours event. The final flight, though, the final ride on this ride was only for D23 members on September 7th of 2010. So then it closed and got rethemed a little bit, reopened May 11th, 2011, with 66 different ride experiences is what it currently has. And now the new version is actually a prequel to the original trilogy. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I miss the old version because I'm old and stubborn now. I've stopped being able to fool people with the Just for Men, and just use it to soften the gray that's in my beard. I miss Rex. Okay, I do. I miss Pee Wee Herman at the helm.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can call him C3PO all you want to, but that's not who's, doing the flying as far as I'm concerned. It's Major Asshole. And it's followed by, his cousin, Gunner's Mate First Class Philip Asshole that's who's running the show as far as I'm concerned with these newer versions. I think that every single person who watched the original Star Wars, this is the one time that I'm gonna kind of deviate from my typical stance on intellectual property. I think
Okay.
everybody whoever saw the original Star Wars wanted to know what it was like to really do the trench run.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that the original Star Tours did that.
Yeah.
I really am. Because that's exactly what the Millennium Falcon ride should have been, you guys. That's exactly what it should have been, if I'm being honest with you. It should have been the sequence in A New Hope where they just escaped from the Death Star and Luke and Han have to go up into the guns and Leia's flying it with Chewie. That's what it should have been. Like people should have had to climb up a ladder, climb into the gunner pod, and then I could have yelled back to somebody, "Don't get penisy." That's a reference for those of you who like Family Guy. So like because like that's what the Falcon ride should have been, and Star Tours gave me like a version of that. I am very thankful for that. And then they canceled it. And I guess they canceled it along with Paul Rubens because he was, off in a theater somewhere. Doing his thing. No, I'm not here to king shame in 2024. You do you, buddy. But they delegated that robot to like being part of canon, like elsewhere. Like it showed up in the Book of Boba Fett as a bartender.
Yeah.
Man, that droid was meant to fly stuff. Even it was his first day on the job. Like, why are you being an asshole and firing him? He just helped destroy the fucking Death Star. Just saying.
I mean, that is true. No, you're right. You're right. Well, maybe that was his retirement.
No.
Maybe he got tired. Maybe after blowing up the Death Star, he's like, "You know what? I'm done."
I'm certain that it's very difficult to recapture the magic of life after destroying the Death Star.
I have peaked. I blew up the Death Star. I have peaked. I cannot accomplish more.
It doesn't mean that your ass is relegated to slinging whiskey. I mean, Jesus Christ! I feel
like that's a less stressful environment, though.
Yes, well, maybe depending on the bar. Because I've been.
No, I feel like after blowing up the Death Star, bartending is.
Have you not seen Roadhouse? I'm just saying. I am just saying that there are some rowdy bars out there. So just keep that in mind. Also, don't watch the new Roadhouse. Just word of advice, because there's God. I've only seen like a handful of clips, and there's nothing that they can do to ever recapture the original Roadhouse magic. Why am I talking about this? We're talking about Star Tours. Okay, so let's talk about like getting through this attraction.
Okay.
I've made a couple of references, and I probably will make another couple of references to the movie Spaceballs thus far in this podcast. This feels like Spaceballs the airport.
I see it. I definitely, because it does. I mean, that's kind of the premise.
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely the premise.
It is the premise. Like you have the robot that is, checking the baggage and all of that, and
you have to go through security, and you have to get scanned, and you have to have the
whole safety.
And here I am going. Where's my? TSA's getting a little handsy here, and the robot doesn't even have hands. It's fucking weird. Is all I'm saying. So,
Well, then you have
But
the safety spiel that you have to listen to before
just
the
like you
flight.
do on a plane. And as we've learned recently, that safety spiel is rather important, especially for those of us who are sitting right next to the doors, like I always do on this ride.
You do always end up next to the door.
I mean, it's because it's the best space for it. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
but still, I always end up sitting next to the door. And yeah, I guess now I really have to listen to the safety bullshit and all of that. So
I will say this, though. At least the doors are not flying off.
yet. I mean, if they don't put a couple of extra bucks in this fucking thing and do some maintenance on it, wouldn't shock me. Like, boy, all of our bitching and moaning about maintenance on this show with Disney attractions, boy, does that sound familiar, doesn't it? Okay, so you know what? We've covered kind of like a little bit of the pre-flight here, right? We've gone through all the queue, which you do meet C-3PO and R2-D2, or who I'm calling Major Asshole and Gunner's Mate First Class Philip J. Asshole.
I would like to say something, though, about the queue.
Okay.
Or about, like, the wait times. This ride always has, like, a 10-15 minute wait. It's hardly ever over that. And that may make it seem like, oh, well, then it's not that popular. That's a lie. The reason why the wait time is that low is because they can get a massive amount of people on this ride at one time. Like they have like four. They have like four. I don't think people realize like how many people can get on this ride. There's like four different simulators.
They have six actually. They have six
simulators.
Different simulators. And the average runtime on this is what, like 4 minutes? 5 minutes?
4 or 5 minutes. Yeah.
Something like that. And there's at least 50 people per car.
Per simulator, yeah.
So, you start doing the math on that and holy shit, you can move a lot of people through if you...
I mean, because when you get up to the actual where you're loading, you see just how many people, like, it's a lot of people that ride this thing. I don't think I've ever been on an empty ride on this one. I think every time I've ridden it, it's been, if not completely full, almost full.
I mean, I've done at least a few with like a half full cabin and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I've never ridden it with anyone dressed as Chewbacca, as one might have seen on previews or the pre-show video or whatever.
Yeah, the safety video is a little misleading in that.
It is in that respect. Nor have I ridden with an Ewok, although I've seen a couple of short, hairy guys on there. So you never. I mean, they could be like cousins of Ewok.
Maybe.
So I'm gonna just kind of throw this out here. So just running some math. This can do roughly 8 shows per hour per simulator. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing if you're running all 6 simulators and you're doing that would be 48 shows per hour.
Yeah.
And if you're multiplying that by 50 people, that is 2,400 people that you can run through this That's like a conservative estimate. That's a lot of people.
Hence why there's hardly ever a line.
Right. Now I noticed this last time I didn't really get the 3D effect. Did they drop the 3D part?
I don't think so. Because we still have to wear the glasses.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't even really remember wearing the glasses. Maybe that was because of something else that I had consumed that evening. But,
we wore the glasses.
Okay. I do remember most of this attraction.
Maybe that's why the 3D effect didn't really seem like 3D, because you were actually wearing the things to make you see the 3D effect.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Anyway,
that was a night.
We won't get into what I consumed that. But it started off with a familiar face in Dark Helmet, which was great to see because he is the best villain of all of the franchise. Would it not be? I mean,
yeah, Dark Helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been too long. I'm having to deal with his whiny grandson over at Rise of the Resistance, and his whiny grants. I've had enough of him. I'm glad that he gets blown out of an airlock. You know what? I'm glad. I'm glad he died at the spoiler alert. I'm glad he died at the end of the 9th movie. I don't fucking care. Those movies are terrible. If you haven't seen those movies, good on you, Steve. This is the one time. This is the one time that I'm like, it's for the best, because God, that last movie was so fucking shitty.
So mad. I was so mad at that last one.
I mean, I think most people were, I was laughing at it. The ships couldn't go up. Anyway, that was literally the plot. The ships couldn't go up. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So, first off, we did, do you remember which planet we traveled to first? I believe it was the Wookiee planet.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was, because I remember it being a scenario I hadn't had in a while.
Yeah. Which I believe, because I don't know why I know shit like this, but I do. I believe that the Wookiee planet is called Kashyyyk. I believe that it is called Kashyyyk. And in episode 3, that was where Yoda was camping out, and we had a gratuitous cameo in Chewbacca knowing Yoda, which, I mean, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No. What? Luke and Yoda sitting around the campfire, that never came up. And one time I did. I was on Wookiee planet. Knew Chewbacca, did I? But really? I know him too.
Okay, so I just looked up the name of the Wookiee planet.
It is Kashyyyk.
It is, but why are there 3 Ys?
It's Polish, I think. So,
No, it's literally KASHYYYK.
Yeah, that sounds like Polish. So they like pierogies on Kashyyyk. So, we ended up like running into one, like a bug on a windshield, and that was kind of
that was a little depressing.
Like, did we just kill one? I'm pretty sure we just killed Chewbacca's brother.
I'm trying to figure out why that particular thing happens in this ride, where children are riding it.
My back, It's kind of how it went. So
because he just like hit and then like slid down.
Yeah. And then we got a message from it was Leia, wasn't it?
It was Leia. Yeah, it was Leia.
Yeah, so that freaks me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Because the last time that we saw Leia, she was in a casket because she died. So there's that.
R.I.P. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, and then they did the whole thing with getting a body double and doing the whole thing on Rogue One, where they brought her back to young life, and that was also creepy because she said hope, and I'm like, I don't like that. But that's what they used basically was the young version of Carrie Fisher to say that we were her only hope. So I guess here we go again, C-3PO. Like, this is what happens when you know chicks like this. I mean, like, you're just constantly going to be asked to do shit that you don't want to do, because like I feel C-3PO in that moment. Like, all right, fuck it, but also like this is 3PO's fault as far as I'm concerned. Like, he could have just. I think droids have freedom in the Star Wars universe, or at least they did under the Republic era. I don't know about the Empire era.
I don't know.
Droids' rights is a concern, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because of that movie Solo. But I'm telling you, I've watched all these movies. They're all like, not all of them.
For someone who doesn't like Star Wars that much, you have seen everything.
I have, and it's because I like the original trilogy. Like, the original trilogy is amazing filmmaking. It really is. Like, I could do without the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. I really could. But like, Empire Strikes Back is it's one of those movies that I feel like everyone should have seen 5-10 times. I know that there's not everybody likes the movies, but
my brother would have seen this more than 10 probably.
Yeah, so have I. I mean, but I had knocked 10 out by the time I was 7. So, like, that's not that hard to do with me. But that's the first 2 Star Wars movies are some of the best cinematography, some of the best filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. And it's because they used models. It's because they used real life locations. They went to fucking, the North Pole basically to shoot Hoth. Okay.
Yeah.
you know, that's the kind of movie magic that you don't see in modern movies, especially. So
Right.
that's why I love those movies, because there's something visceral about them, you know. And
Mhm.
the prequels completely got away from that with all the CGI all over the damn place. And then the three
The
movies,
sequels.
the sequel trilogy, oh good God, just the worst combinations of all of the worst things. It really
It
was the
was
worst.
horrible.
And it was helmed by the most derivative director in modern movie making, in J.J. Abrams, who does nothing but shine lights, literal flashlights. He shines at the camera to create lens flares to make it seem more alive, which is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. But I digress. I would be a true Star Wars fan if not for the fact that, like, I don't know, there's like 3.5 good ones.
Yeah.
You know what? 4.5 good ones. I'll count Rogue One as a good one.
Rogue One was good. I did like Rogue One.
And the last half of Revenge of the Sith was pretty good. But like outside of that, all shit, as far as I'm concerned. Especially compared to the rest
Yeah.
of the good part of the franchise. So
Yeah.
I get really upset with all that. I think that there's so much more that they could do, and I look at something like my favorite franchise, Star Trek, and go, well, it's endured for 60 years, and it's had its bad moments, aka
Discovery.
Yeah, but it also has like a lot of great in there,
Yeah.
but that we should get back to the actual ride. All right, so they send you over to Coruscant, I believe, or they send us to Coruscant, and Coruscant, of course, is the capital planet, which is a whole planet that's a whole city. It's nothing but city. It's the dumbest idea ever in terms of engineering.
We go, and then we go the wrong way on, the highway, which is air.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. This is why flying cars are never going to become a thing. Like the Jetsons are never going to become a thing in reality. Because there will be some dumbass that decides to fly, like, even though there's infinite directions in which you can go, there will be one dumbass that goes against the grain of the accepted traffic.
You mean
and
like
that's
people do now on
correct.
highways?
That's why they're and look how dangerous it is with like cars on the ground. This is why there won't be flying cars.
We don't need flying cars.
Anywho. Yes, we do do all of that. We also try to avoid being destroyed by older Star Destroyers from the prequel trilogy. I guess this, like you said, they're going to, since they made this into a prequel for the
original.
I guess this is the only place that we're going to get to see some of the good characters and the good settings instead of the bad and the rays of the world. Oh, rays of the world, Jesus Christ! I would. Never mind. The one thing that I'm really disappointed by is that we didn't end up on Tatooine, because now I cannot make my favorite reference from Spaceballs, which is the guy who played Tuvok, and another black man combing the desert with an afro pick. And after being asked, have you found anything? Him going, we ain't found shit. It's my favorite fucking line.
It's really funny to me because I mean I've seen Spaceballs before.
Right.
But it's been years before I met you. Mm-hmm. And then you introduced me to Star Trek. And so I know him as Tuvok, and Tuvok is really serious and all of this. So to see him in that scene.
Yes.
It's
and
hilarious.
We ain't found shit. I swear to God. I about shit myself laughing every time. Every time that I see it. He's amazing in that scene. It's one of my favorite parts of that movie, and I fucking love that movie. I really do. I love that movie so much that I need to point out that movie has the plot of of the new the Marvels movie.
Oh, okay.
Well, the villain in the Marvels decided to try to suck the atmosphere out of a planet to deliver it to her old planet. That's literally the plot of Spaceballs. That, if you're wondering why the MCU has kind of gone downhill, that's the reason why, because they ripped off Spaceballs. So, anyway, as far as an attraction is concerned, it's a pretty good attraction.
Yeah.
And I like the motion simulator stuff. Not everybody does. I know that our guest here in a couple moments, he is not the biggest fan of simulator attractions, but I am, because I like the idea of flying. I like the idea of going into space. So, this stuff is cool as shit to me. And I miss the old Body Wars attraction because it was the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, with the exact same simulator, it's not the same programming, I don't think, but it's very similar visceral experience as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I love this attraction. I really do. After you get off the attraction, it starts to go downhill though for me, because then you're dumped into a gift shop, and that gift shop is just. I get that every attraction, no, almost every attraction, I should say, has its own gift shop.
Mhm.
But there is something like more insidious about a Star Wars gift shop in my mind, because because I know the story of how George Lucas took a salary cut for the first one just so he could retain the merchandising rights, and because I
Mhm.
know all the toy history with
Mhm.
Star Wars. There's something more insidious about it, I guess, for
Mhm.
me anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But also, as much as I love this attraction, I don't know that it needs to exist anymore. And it's because if they didn't relocate it to Galaxy's Edge, what are we doing?
That's my issue with the ride. The ride, like you said, I enjoy the ride. I like the fact that I don't have to wait very long for it.
Sure.
It is. I like the fact that you're not getting the same ride experience every time. You're going, there are those different scenarios that you get.
Mhm.
So every ride is different.
Allegedly. I've ridden the
Allegedly.
same one a bunch
I
of
feel
times.
like, yeah, I feel like I have not done 66 different scenarios.
No.
Um, but, again, and yes, it was there way before Galaxy's Edge was ever thought of.
And I'm
But
glad that they didn't just tear down the Muppets to
right,
expand into Galaxy's Edge and branch it off of there.
right. But it is also kind of out of place.
I kind of feel like there would have been a way to do it so that you exited behind
Yeah.
Muppet
And you
Vision,
could have gone
and
into Galaxy's Edge
yeah,
that
that
way.
should have been like your entrance into Batu and all of that
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge stuff. Was you almost have to ride Star Tours, and it always has to end up landing
And
on
that would
Batu.
actually be kind of like the perfect bridge, because Star Tours takes place in between the prequel and the original trilogy, and Galaxy's Edge is pretty much based after
Exclusively on
the
the
sequels.
sequel trilogy. Yeah.
So that would have been like that's a good little bridge. It's just, it is now kind of out of place. I think that's also why, like, you used to see really long lines for this attraction before Galaxy's Edge,
Sure.
because it was the only Star Wars attraction. I think that's part of the reason you don't see that anymore, is because it's not in Galaxy's Edge. It's separate, and everybody is going to Galaxy's Edge and spending, because that's such an immersive land, they're spending their time there.
And if I'm being honest, the Millennium Falcon is like the ultimate successor to
It is.
Star Tours.
It is.
So and it's an experience I think that we would rather have if we had to pick between the one of the two.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's ever watched Star Tours would want, or Star Wars rather, would want to go, ride the Millennium Falcon as opposed to
I think
doing
it would
this.
be cool if they could somehow get the Millennium Falcon to have like the different scenarios like Star
Sure.
Tours does. But keep it, like where you control the actual
Right.
vehicle. um, but And if that happens, then yeah, you don't need Star Tours anymore.
Well, it may end up happening one day, and if it does, it does. So be it. I won't exactly shed. I will shed a single tear. Rest in peace, Rex. Is all I can say. So, Amanda, on a scale
Yes.
of 1 to 5 stars, how many tours are you giving this attraction?
I'm gonna go with 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
It
Is there
is.
anything that they could have
I
done?
mean,
to
it's pretty much what I just said. The fact that it's not in Galaxy's Edge kind of dings it a little bit. I also wish it was slightly longer. It feels too short sometimes. Um, and I feel like just as I'm really getting into what's happening, it's over.
Yeah.
So I wish it was slightly longer, but overall, it's a really good attraction. Because I like the original series better than the sequels. I even like the prequels better than the sequels.
This is how you know that you're becoming more of a Star Trek fan, is because you didn't call it the original trilogy, you called it the original series. There
Yeah.
you go. You're welcome to being a Star Trek fan. I can't disagree with you on any of that. I am going to give it a 4. I do genuinely enjoy this attraction. I do wish that it got a little bit more love, both from the masses and from the company as
Yeah.
well. I wish it got a little bit more of a maintenance update. I do think a couple of those simulator bays are down for repairs and stuff like that. And frankly, whenever you're dealing with older technology, you just end up having stuff break down, and the companies that made the parts aren't around necessarily
Right.
to go fix all of that stuff. So
Right.
it can become very expensive to repair and maintain. I understand all of that from an intellectual perspective, yet I still wish they would do better. So, listen, a lot of news has kind of come up here in the last week. A couple of really big news stories. And I think next week is going to hold another big news story, which means we're going to have yet another guest. But today, we need to bring in a special guest to talk about the end of the fight between the state of Florida and the Walt Disney Company. And of course, another major news story involving Imagineering. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we?
Yay!
And now, as promised, let's welcome in NotClub33.com CEO, founder, co-founder. How do we want to phrase that?
Founder.
CEO, certainly. Our boss,
CEO.
Founder.
Co-owner.
Just
Co-owner. Founder and co-owner. Yeah.
there it is. Okay. Founder and co-owner,
There you go.
Steve Rhodes. And producer extraordinaire, by the way. Good. So, Steve, thank you very, very much for joining
That's my
us
main
here
job.
this evening.
The kids, man.
Those kids, man, I'm telling you, they get excited whenever we have visitors. I don't know.
Mhm.
But
They do.
Steve, we have brought you in here for a very important reason. And that reason is basically to be the dog whisperer on me. Like, you remember the old dog
Come
whisperer,
again?
like Caesar.
Yeah.
Caesar
I've actually
Milan,
met
no?
the guy. I met
Oh,
the
you
guy.
did?
I rented
Okay,
him a
so
ca-
then you
I
know
met-
exactly.
I rented him a car back when I worked for a rent-a-car company back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is
So
cool.
Yeah.
now what I need you to do for me is like the whole thing, the to get me to shut up. Because I feel like this is
God knows
we're
I
coming to
can't
the
do it.
That
Thanks.
doesn't happen,
Thanks,
does it?
honey. Anyway, we are coming to the end of what I feel like is a very important story with a lot of implications for both America and the Disney company as a whole. But I get that not everybody is going to be in line politically, blah 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 blah, with all this stuff. So to kind of give me like bumper rails, like at a bowling alley, we have to bring in the boss to make sure that I stay on subject. Is that fair?
I mean,
Sure.
if you're going to talk about the topic that I think you're going to talk about, I don't think you're going to need much help staying on topic because the situation's now over, right?
I mean, so that is the big news story. Of course, a settlement has been reached between the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District and the Walt Disney Company. So the agreement that has come to light is that Disney stipulates that the development agreement and their restrictive covenants are now null and void. So the bullshit that they tried to pull right before the governor took over, that's now whatever they tried to do, they can't do. They just said that they won't do that. They don't contest the district assessment of the 2032 comprehensive plan. I have no idea what the comprehensive plan was supposed to be for 12 years from when all this stuff started, but you know, um, there's Disney basically will drop the lawsuit. Is what the main tenet of the agreement is. They will dismiss the public records case, meaning that they will stop trying to investigate, sort of, anyway, through discovery, investigating the governor's office. They
And Florida's dropping in their countersuit as well, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
yeah. Now, technically speaking, the loss, or rather the civil case between Disney and the governor is still pending with the Supreme Court. That has not officially been settled yet. But it that's what they are working towards, is some sort of settlement of that. Disney and the district will not contest the actions of the Reedy Creek Improvement District prior to DeSantis' takeover of it. Disney will seek permission to defer briefing in the federal appeals lawsuit against Ron DeSantis, pending negotiations and other new developments with the district.
So they dropped the lawsuit.
They dropped the lawsuit, and they also are not going to shift the tax burden, which was a major concern here. That because they arbitrarily, without really a plan in place, just said that we're taking away the special tax district from Disney. When they just did that with the stroke of a pen, they didn't have a means of settling the tax bill at that point.
I thought it was still onus on Disney at that point when the law originally was put into place, that
it was not officially on the onus of Disney.
That was the big concern to the people who live here.
And all of that would have literally shifted from what would have been a handful of owners of hotels that are technically on property. So like the Hyatt, the Drury, and all that
and
stuff.
The counties. Yeah.
No, it would have taken it all away from just them.
It would have been onto the counties, and spread through the taxpayer. Yeah.
So it's not. I think it's just onto Orange County too, because they do so little that is actually technically in Osceola.
I think really only Animal Kingdom's in Osceola.
I don't even think it's Animal Kingdom as a whole. I think
the parking lot's in Osceola.
Some of it is, yeah, and the water parks might be, but doesn't matter. That's boring stuff. So, what's the implication here then for Disney?
So for Disney, where I see, or what I've basically seen from this, is that they are trying not to fight with the governor anymore. They've basically given up on everything, which I do like, that there's kind of a peace agreement happening here, because I feel like something needed to take place to kind of break this stress.
Yeah,
and it wasn't going to be a judge. That was only going to escalate the situation. Let's be honest about it. Now, also, this may buy them a little bit of credit in the sense of, with the non, or with the governor appointed board, anyway, they do have a rather large $17 billion budget that is supposed to be funneled into Disney World. So this perhaps makes it easier to spend that money down there, as opposed to fighting over the situation and not having your ground, or your feet on solid ground at that point. So maybe this actually solidifies the budget for Disney to actually proceed. So that also is a major implication. There is some benefit to Disney settling this. I think from a national perspective and from an overarching perspective, and I hate to get this way, but I feel like this is the part that everybody keeps kind of losing track. Regardless of where you stand on the issues that Disney was countering from the governor's office. I think that the biggest implication here is the biggest scaring implication here is that the governor could impede your business model for having a loud and out public opinion on a subject matter. That
Or
to me
just that wasn't even a loud and out. It was just, hey, this is how we feel.
sure.
Yeah.
And as both a resident of the state of Florida and as a purported, anyway, alleged Disney Parks fan, I'm a little bit leery of the fact that they kind of caved on this. I think that they should have taken this all the way out. Look, I don't think it's a secret that I'm not the biggest fan of the current Disney company leadership at this point.
But to your point, to your point though, you like you said, with this being over and done with, it's going to make things at the district a lot easier internally. So there's no infighting between the appointees from the governor versus the people that are trying to get stuff done on property. They're going to try to get shit done. So, now you don't have this overhanging court case. So now the tensions are coming down.
Maybe shit will actually get done now.
Yeah, and I think that's the implication here is that Disney's looking at this like, hey, look, this is just another problem we don't need, and let's just step down and let this crap run its course, and maybe we'll have better luck with the next administration. If this guy is no longer running for federal office, so maybe we can sit down and work something out in the long term. Who knows? But they're looking at this like, let's just cut bait and deal with what we got to deal with, because the letter of the law was that there was the new district was in place. So during this whole proceedings, that district could have imposed things on Disney over and over and over and over again while things were pending judgment. So why subject yourself to that when, you can just say, forget it, let's move forward. And, I think that's just kind of where the corporate standpoint.
Sure. And I guess I stand on principle a little bit more when it comes to something like this. I wanted them to fight it out, but
it's a lot easier to stand on business when you're not talking about $1 trillion. Like it's just like, it's a lot easier to, when you
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I'm just, like I said, I don't like bullies, first of all. And I think that this situation was the result of some bullying on both sides, to be honest with you. And that, Disney tried to throw their weight around, and that caused the governor to throw his weight around. And as it turns out, unfortunately, governments still have, significant power over, the people. So I'm a little bit perturbed about that sort of thing. That's as close to political as I think I've gotten here in a while. I hope, right, Steve?
Yeah. I don't think it's a political thing. I think it's just one of those things where lawsuits happen, and this one didn't go the way Disney wanted it to.
Maybe I think the overall lesson should be, chill, just chill a little bit. Yeah. That's all. So.
Well, with the lawsuit over, weren't you telling us? You were telling us off camera though. Now that the lawsuit's over, some of the old Reedy Creek people are coming back.
That is the case. So, as a result of the governor's takeover of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, what a mouthful, by the way, just so you know, as a host, there was a lot of.
There is a sign on I-4 that says that, by the way.
Yeah, there is.
Really?
Yeah.
There is. Like when you get to right before you get to the first Disney exit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They need a better name. I don't know why you can't just call it. You can just still call it Reedy Creek, just under new management,
right?
Why change?
And it's also misleading because they don't really control any of the other theme parks or anything.
Because it was targeted legislation, but
right. That's why it's like it's such a misleading name because it's only Disney that they're. Because again, it doesn't start until right before that first Disney exit. Universal and SeaWorld are up the road.
It actually takes place before that first Disney exit, exactly 1 mile away. I noticed this while I was driving down that way for work. The first Disney exit going south on I-4 or I guess west technically,
Quote unquote West.
yeah, it's really south, but the first Disney exit is exit 68. And the first sign for that would be at the mile marker. That's one higher than that. So not so nice of them to take that away from me. But I digress. No, but the I think the board that they implemented kind of had the mindset and the mission of I want to clear house of whatever they perceived as corruption that was going on, and so they let a lot of people go. But when they let a lot of people go, they let a lot of brain drain go along with it. And so anybody who knew how to do anything, including but not limited to find the key to the restroom that's not really public, so they lock it up. That key got lost, and so I think they hired that person back. But on top of that, there was a lot of people who came back with construction codes, that kind of stuff that perhaps can help get things a little bit speedier for some of that. So that is a good thing for Disney as well.
People coming back to Disney is a good thing.
Well, yes and no. I kind of within the company itself, I think it needs a shake up personally still, but I think at this point, by the way, I haven't hit this hot take up in the group chat yet. I am definitely on the side of Peltz taking over, not just taking over, but actually suggesting that they spin the parks off into a separate business at this point, and just do a licensing thing like the Oriental Sea Company does in Tokyo Disney.
I don't know that I'm on board with old Nelson, but I guess we'll find out on Wednesday here. So
yes. That is coming up, and I'm certain that will be a topic for fodder on our next show. So
I think so.
One other major news story that has come out this week is that he's coming back, folks. It's starting. The man, the myth, literally the Disney legend.
Yeah, he is.
Joseph Rohde is coming back to Disney.
Is his name Joseph? Is it?
Is it Joseph? Do we know?
I mean, if you have a Dreamcatcher earring, your name is just Joe.
I was gonna call him Joseph Robinette Rohde, but because Robinette feels like what his nickname or his middle name would be.
Wikipedia does say Joseph.
Okay, there we go.
Awesome. I'm glad that I was able to pull that up.
Now, before everybody freaks out, he's not back. But
yeah, he's not in charge of
he's on camp. He's on Imagineering campus teaching Imagineers.
Which come on.
Come on.
If you're gonna learn from an Imagineer, that's the Imagineer to learn from.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the reason why, and I hope that this lesson gets imparted somehow while he's on campus teaching them. There's great ride ideas that don't require you to have seen a fucking television show or a movie before. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
just throwing it out there.
I don't know that that's going to be his main piece of information he passes down, but I really hope he gets rid of this whole vanillaism of like the resorts and just think outside the box and do theming without whatever the hell they're doing now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Steve, you've edited this show, and you certainly heard my thoughts on theming and such. And rather than me, force everybody to sit through another lecture from me on the word theming, like I did a few weeks ago, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell me what would be appropriate theming as far as you're concerned? Because obviously my opinion is different than everybody else's.
I mean, everybody's going to have a slightly different opinion on this, and I think it just depends on where you are. I mean, if I'm at a hotel on Disney property, I'm at a resort, I want the resort to be themed after whatever the name of resort is. So you have a place like the Boardwalk that they've de-themed that doesn't look like the inside remind you of something that you would find on the Boardwalk in New Jersey. So I think that's odd that they would start this whole vanillaizing of the resort rooms and just bringing them down. Everything has the laminate floors with the nondescript curtains and this and that. It's like,
don't forget the barn door.
Yeah. Well, it depends.
God.
That's on the moderates. Now on the deluxe, you're gonna get a door, unless you're on
That's
the
not
PVC
true.
side. Yeah.
That's
Not
not true.
true.
Well, we
We
have
got a
Oh, you-
barn door at Wilderness Lodge.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
So but see, that's the problem when you hire somebody. The former head of Imagineering was just from a firm that was doing hotels. She's making fucking Courtyards by Marriott, and this is what she was turning everything into, is just this bland,
Yeah.
unthemed crap. And I think to your point, Bobby, you don't like the other side of the coin where it's, everything is cartoonified. And I think there needs to be a balance, and you can look to, like, I think they really thought that they did a great job with the poly, and they did because they put Moana in there. But I use this example. It's like, it wasn't that you put Moana in there that made it great when you redid it. It's that Moana movie was so accurate and historically
Right.
relevant that it fits.
It fit right into it.
Yeah. So all those motifs and things like that you would find in the South
if you
Pacific
went to
Islands.
Polynesia. Yeah.
Yes. So all that crap makes
yes,
sense to be
great
in there.
country of Polynesia.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you're in the South Pacific, that's the kind of shit you're going to see, right? So that's why that worked. But then you can't just go to the next hotel, like the Contemporary, and just throw Incredibles on the wall with a freaking decal. That doesn't work. There has to be, you could have done some type of motif or something like that just to have it subtly integrated. But what they ended up doing was just turning it into more of a value, type of play with the stickers on the wall. It's crazy.
That's the thing that I think that was my biggest takeaway as I was trying to sort out my thoughts on stuff like the 90s versus now show and the theming show and everything like that. I think maybe it's because I grew up in the 90s and that I came here a lot as a kid in the 90s. I always looked at the stuff with all the cartoons characters as
That was the
as
value
cheap.
resorts.
Yeah.
That was the All-Stars.
And now it's the Contemporary, and I'm like, I it's not computing with me how that it makes it any more valuable. In fact, it makes it less valuable to me in that sense. But
it's kitschy, and the problem, but then when they go the other way, it's just like, well, then why would I come to Disney if it's not themed at all? Like, there's a Hilton down the street and it's $150 a night. I'm going to get points. I'm going to get free breakfast. I'm going to get a lot more things for my dollar there than I can at your resort. And you've just de-Disneyfied your entire resort. So it's like, one hand you got over theming, the other hand you got no theming. It's like, well, why are we doing this? Just meet them, do something like you used to do, put it in down the middle. But
I mean, I guess the question then becomes, what is Disneyfying at that point? Because to me, the Disney difference was what you said earlier, where, if you're going to the boardwalk, you expect a certain air of New Jersey about the room, or you expect a certain impression within the room of different things from, the boardwalk.
I think with the resorts, it wasn't just the room itself. It was the entire feel of the whole resort. Like, you had that theming went, lobby, the rooms, the restaurants, the costumes that the cast members wear. It all flowed together, and you had that very cohesive theming throughout. And I think Disney used to be so good about paying attention to the details. And if you walk around like Boardwalk, and just like walk through the resort, not necessarily outside on the actual boardwalk, but inside the resort itself, you see some of those details with like the old carnival, type of like kitschy little things. That's the theming of Boardwalk. And they were really good about that. And they kind of got away from it with these newer resorts.
I think that they still pay attention to the details. I think they just don't care about them in the same way. And by that, I mean, look at this detail. Now, what can we do to make sure that we add Goofy to it? That seems
I don't even think they're not even doing that. And a lot of these places, they're doing either too much or not enough. And it's just, like you go to like, so you take a Joe Rohde property like Animal Kingdom, which we've had on our YouTube
Sure.
channel. We did a video on Animal Kingdom and we talked about, there's Lion King stuff there in the details in the woodworking. There is. It's
But
subtle.
it's very subtle.
And it fits with the theme of where you're at, right?
Correct.
And there's ways to do things that involve IP without just throwing shit all over the place. Like
Right.
there's nods to Mary Poppins at the Grand Floridian. There's
Floridian.
you'll hidden Mickeys are everywhere. There's
Yeah.
I don't
Donald
think
Duck
that
nods around the property. There's things like that. It's just they need to be woven in and they need to be seamless. And you should have to go looking for them or just stumble upon them instead of it being forced down your throat.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that we kind of lose is that when if you just plaster it everywhere, then it's not special, right? And then
Right.
if you get rid of it
it's
completely, then it's not Disney. So
Right.
like, what are we doing? Like that, it
Right.
just, yeah.
That's fair, I guess, but also I don't think that you even need the subtle nod to Mary Poppins over at the Grand Floridian. I think you just need to make a super luxurious hotel, and if you want to throw in a
But
hidden
that's
Mickey,
the
fine.
thing
That's not gonna
with
work,
with
man.
the subtle nod to Mary Poppins. It's done very subtly. Like unless you know it's there.
I wanna
it
feel-
is
The
I wanna
reason why I
feel
say that
I'm
is
at
because
Disney. Yeah.
But clearly, though, the Grand Floridian had been the most popular and luxurious hotel on property.
It's not
before-
luxurious. I can go down
Not
the street
anymore.
to a Waldorf. No, it's never been. I can go to a Waldorf, or now there's a Conrad in Orlando. You guys just got. There's
That place is
the-
nuts, by the way.
the Ritz. You can get a JW. Like there's things that you can do. The Four Seasons. There's nice luxury properties. You want to do luxury, that's the standard. Disney's charging those prices. Well, I better get some fucking Disney out of it because I know you can't match the Ritz. You can't match the Waldorf. You're not capable of doing that because that's for a different type of guest.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
paying these prices because I want Disney, and that's why I'm paying for the upcharge. But I
see-
also want it done in a certain way. Yeah.
I guess I'm paying for them to just be like it was back in the 90s, not Mary Poppins-ified, or not. And
It was there.
What I mean by that is
It was
that,
there. The Mary
Yeah.
Poppins thing's always been
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Okay, fine. What you get my point. Like the attention to that as an intellectual property was not there in the 90s the way that we all know it to be now. Let me
No,
put
it's
it
the
that way.
same. The Grand, they haven't really fucked that one up. Now the rooms they've kind of toned down to the fact where it doesn't look very Grand Floridian-y, but it's but the resort itself, it still has that same vibe. I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't plastered.
I guess what I'm
you know.
looking for is perhaps for them to drop some of the prices rather than try to say try to justify
Exactly.
Mary Poppins as being worth $300 to $500 in some cases dollars more per night than that resort is actually worth compared to other options that all things
the
being
prices are going up. I mean, I don't know a business that doesn't raise their prices. I mean,
I don't know.
I
one
can't name
either.
one.
That's not.
I sell insurance for a living. The price is up. It just is. You sell air conditionings, the price is up.
Of
It's
course.
just-
But
I think-
but if I may, there are reasons why those products and services go up. Part of it is inflation, absolutely,
yeah.
but part of it is supply chain issues and scarcity of resources, which that's
Sure.
not the same thing that happens at a hotel. For
Disney
for
doesn't
all
need
intent-
air condition. They don't need insurance.
They-
they have these things that you're talking about. Everyday
Sorry.
things a business needs
They
to run.
better have some air conditioning.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, the prices are going to go up. I just think
Yeah.
that in order to justify those prices, I need to get some, the
I
quote
don't think
unquote
they
Disney
can.
difference.
I guess that's the thing is that I don't think that makes a difference. It just doesn't in my mind. So I think that they should charge appropriately for what the hotel actually is. And if you want to add in a pepper in Mary Poppins, great. If you want to pepper in a hidden Mickey, cool. Just charge what the resort is worth. And I don't think that your intellectual property makes it that. I don't think that it makes it value. In fact, I think it makes it
Well-
less value. Personally,
Well,
that's me.
Yeah, you're
You know.
in a very, very small minority, clearly, because the you can't get a room half the time. So I think the reality of the situation is that yeah, the JW Marriott's nice, the Waldorf's really nice, but does there a monorail out front? There ain't, and things like that. That's
That's
what you're
different.
paying
Okay.
for.
So that to me is different. The monorail is different than fucking Mary
Is it?
Poppins. Like,
Is it?
yes, absolutely it is. Because it's a method of transportation. It means you don't have to walk
You hate
anywhere.
public transportation.
I know I do. I'm saying that you're right. I fucking hate it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that it's not more valuable than a goddamn movie from the 1960s. Like, you can't tell me that Mary Poppins physically does nothing for me. The monorail
Well-
physically does something for me.
But that's the thing, though. You got to look at the average park goer is going to Disney for the characters to see Disney. They don't want to go. They can stay at the Marriott in their hometown. They're going to Disney World. Disney World is a destination. I'm not going to go there and stay in a bland ass room and pay extra inflated costs. I want Disney.
Agreed. I don't want to pay the inflated costs.
Yeah.
And you can pepper in all your Disney all you want to, but recognize that is not what makes the room valuable to me. That
is what makes it valuable to the masses.
And
That's the difference.
that's why I'm trying to fight against you masses like Don Quixote, like I've been bringing up,
But
because the masses are wrong. Is what I'm saying.
It's a silly argument to say that Disney shouldn't be Disney. I mean, it just doesn't even make sense.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that be Disney, but stop thinking that because you're Disney does not mean that just because you have that name does not make it X times more valuable than what you're getting somewhere else. That's what I'm trying to get at. Be Disney. That's fine. But stop thinking that's a $300 tax, basically, on the consumer. That's what I'm getting at.
You're talking about elevated, basically the stock room. You're talking about elevated experiences that they got to pay for. They have higher level people that are working there at the front desk and things like that. Versus if you're going to the value resorts,
Higher level.
Well, yeah, there's a hierarchy
training.
Within, there's a hierarchy within. Yeah. There's no concierge at the All-Stars. There's a reason for that.
Okay, that's fair. There's no concierge at the All-Stars. You're right.
So you have different employees that are working there. You're not going to the food court. You have things. These amenities cost money. You're on Bay Lake. That costs money to maintain, whether you like it or not. The pools are nicer. They have multiple pools. Those things cost money to maintain. So you're going to spend an element in the monorail. That costs money. If you're on a monorail resort, you're supplementing that.
Absolutely.
So all of that is money that it's gonna cost you.
Correct.
So
that's
the only way you can differentiate yourself is to be very Disney, or
all those other things are also Disney, by the way. And again, I guess where I keep getting hung up on it is that the intellectual property, the Mary Poppins part, does not take what should be a $450 room at best, really, in realistic terms, compared to other rooms that are identical elsewhere, just in terms of amenities, in terms of all that stuff. Mary Poppins does not warrant you to pay double the cost of that room if it was somebody else's room running.
You're right.
That's
but
what
if we're talking specifically Grand Floridian or Polynesian or Contemporary, what does double that is the monorail and your access to Magic Kingdom.
That's
and the fact that you have the ability.
If I come down to Miami tomorrow, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I get a hotel room in Brickell, it's going to cost different than if I'm on South Beach. You know why? It's called location.
You are missing what I am saying.
No, you're missing
not
your own
comparing
point.
it to. I am not comparing it to other Disney properties. I'm comparing their room, with the 65-inch TV, a shitty cooler, not even a refrigerator, a cooler, a crappy double bed, a Murphy bed, and a sofa bed, and I guess the Poly to a separate vanity closet or a separate water closet.
Yeah, separate bathroom.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
We have two bathrooms. Yeah.
So cool. All right. If you find that elsewhere, if you go to the fucking Swan and Dolphin, you can get a better room than what you're being offered without the Disney characters. And that to me is like the comp. It's not the All Stars, it's not the Waldorf, it's the Swan and the Dolphin, because
Okay.
those are deluxe resorts.
And
Those
guess where
are
Swan and Dolphins are priced right just below Boardwalk and Yacht Club. just
below
below.
all of them. That's because
Not
they
by
have
much.
but they have the exact same amenities as all those other Disney resorts that are all
They do
right
not have
there.
Disney transportation. Yeah.
They do. They have the boats for one thing.
Well, they can
They
use the
also
boat, yeah.
you can walk to the Skyliner, and they absolutely have buses. So they do have Disney.
to the transportation and ticket center. They cannot go straight to the Magic Kingdom.
Yes, you were right.
Yeah.
But they can go to Epcot. They can go to Hollywood
Sure.
Studios, and they can go to Animal Kingdom. Okay, so
But they're not.
you-
You're not double. It's not even close to double. You're talking $50-$60.
no, for like you can get $350 for Swan and Dolphin. Absolutely.
Yeah, the last cash price I paid at Boardwalk was $360.
And the last
Oh.
cash price I paid at the beach club was like $600. Yacht
You
club
got-
during the pandemic was $400.
You got. I won't pay that. Yeah.
Okay, but my point being, though, that when compared to the Swalfin, that is to me is the standard. Yes, the Swalfin. That to me is how
Yeah.
you should be comparing all this stuff. If you pepper in a goddamn hidden Mickey, that does not automatically make it that much more expensive. At least to me. If it does to you, please, God bless it, leave a comment. And I promise you, I'll be.
They
nice.
don't need to leave a comment. The rooms are sold out.
Why are you trying to disincentivize
To give you
interaction? Comment below. Tell me I'm an asshole. How's that? Tell me I'm an asshole in the comment section, please. By all means.
Please leave.
Yeah, 'cause
also,
he won't listen when I tell him.
you know what? Fuck all.
I'm on a
of
roll tonight, man.
you. Try to go into this with nice intent. Anyway, Steve, you are CEO and shit and producer extraordinaire.
I wouldn't
Like,
call myself a CEO.
yeah, I mean, you know, I do. So, you
Main
know,
job is producer.
fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, anywho, you're like in charge of stuff. Like, tell us what we should be promoting here, since you know you sponsor this here show.
This show that you're watching here on YouTube and listening online and all the different podcast platforms, Cynics on Disney podcast, drops mostly every Monday. And then on YouTube only, we do have the Notcasts, which is pretty much every Friday, 4 p.m. Magic Kingdom time it drops. So stay tuned for that, because we will be talking all sorts of things Walt Disney World.
Yes, and pretty much is the key, you know, two-word phrase in there, because you know we just had spring break, and you know
Well, we don't get paid for this shit, so we take
Yeah.
time off.
I mean,
Yep.
you know, we're allowed. I get sick every now and then, so who am
And
I?
also that.
Jesus. Okay,
As he coughs.
yeah. Amanda,
Yes.
we are on social media, are we not?
We are on social media.
Why don't you tell us where we can be found on social media?
All right, you can find us on Facebook and that lovely-ish site formerly known as Twitter. I don't know if lovely is a word. I refuse to call it that, Steve. It's
Maybe.
the site formerly known as Twitter.
Yes.
Okay.
You can find us there at Cynical Disney, and you can find us everywhere else. That's Instagram, Pinterest, Threads, TikTok, all of that fun stuff at Cynics on Disney.
And Steve, why don't you give out the social media handles for the website while you're at it?
NotClub33.com, and all of our social media handles are at @not_club33.
And guys, while you're out there, you know, liking all of this stuff, make sure that you are subscribed to this here channel, and you are also subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on, whether that is Apple, Spotify, Google, Podbean. I don't know, another one. I'm sure that there's like another one, like
Amazon.
Turkmenistan or
Yeah.
something that's super popular that I'm not aware of, or something like that. But make sure that you also rate and review this here show, so that we get out in the algorithm, and that exposes us to more listeners. And especially now that we're on YouTube, you definitely don't want me exposing myself in any other way. Until next time, guys. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Have yourselves a magical fucking day.